Right, team, well, just let us know when you're ready to go. All good? Well, firstly, thanks very much for taking the time to come here today. I'm Detective Superintendent Greg Williams, and I'm the Director of the National Organised Crime Group that operates across New Zealand. I'd like to introduce Superintendent Tim
Anderson.
Oh my God. Tim Anderson, District Commander here for Bay of Plenty. So today we're talking about the termination of Operation Highwater. Operation Highwater is a national organised crime group investigation that commenced in December last year, principally focused on the east chapter of the Barbarian Motorcycles gang that's based in Opotiki. And it sort of arose out of the violence and ongoing issues with Opotiki that was occurring last year. The investigation primarily focused on that gang's involvement in mainly drug dealing, so significant drug dealing, methamphetamine drug dealing, the cultivation and sale of significant large quantities of cannabis, but it also encompassed quite a significant amount of violence that the gang was also engaged in during that period of time. In fact, in July this year, our investigation actually prevented what we believe was probably a significant shooting that was going to occur at a tangi in Opotiki that the gang was trying to organise, but we were able to disrupt it. And a second similar event up in Hamilton, where they intended to also attempt to murder a rival gang member, but again we were able to stop that. So, you know, the investigation has established that that particular gang in that town has caused significant violence and issues around that. So, you know, that's it's pleasing to see that we're actually able to prevent that sort of violence occurring in that community. Today we've executed over 30 warrants across the country. The bulk of those have been in Opotiki and they continue as we speak. But we've also been executing warrants in Auckland, in Rotorua, Taupo, up on the east coast, in Porua and in Wellington. And this is because the group we allege was involved in distribution of methamphetamine to other gangs across the country. We actually terminated a job a couple of months ago in Whirianga, which was an offshoot of this, where a number of people were charged there with methamphetamine dealing overall. We had about 100 staff today that were assisting us in the investigation. The teams were supported by local Bay of Plenty staff, asset recovery staff, supported by AOS. We had our RU teams there, but we also had the prevention and harm team there, because a big aspect of what we're trying to do in these communities that we learnt from when we did the job up in Kawerau in 2018 is you kind of got to look at the wraparound support that needs to go into these communities post these events. And we think that, like Kawerau, taking out this significant gang in this town will allow the town to breathe and maybe, you know, start to recover from some of the harm that they're seeing in there. So that's why the resilience piece is really important to come in that sort of wraparound process that now assists them. That was probably one of the best things that actually came out of Kawerau was actually about 80 to 100 self-referrals of people in that community bringing their families and wanting to get off methamphetamine. So we expect to see and hope that the same thing will occur there. And of course, Opotiki just recently opened up a treatment facility just out of Opotiki, funded by Proceeds of Crime and Community. And so that's exciting too, to think that they've got that sort of facility to do that. This morning we met with the local mayor, and I've just been speaking to one of the key iwi leaders there, just briefing them on where we're at with this process. So that's sort of the aspect of what this investigation is about and where we sit. There is a number of people appearing in the Tauranga court this afternoon, and the rest appearing tomorrow, and obviously in other courts around the country. So that's kind of a summary. Also, at this stage, we've restrained or seized about $800,000 worth of property. That includes one residential property, 4 vehicles, jet ski, 65,000 in cash, 87,000 in a bank account, and about $20,000 worth of jewellery at this stage. So yeah, that's probably the key elements from my perspective. I'll just hand you over to Tim.
Thanks, Greg. Good afternoon. I'm Tim Anderson, the Bay of Plenty District Commander. Greg and I have known each other for years, so I don't know why you forgot my surname, but there you go. Today is a good day for a Aotearoa. Termination of this operation is a clear message to gang members selling illegal drugs across the Bay of Plenty that we will find you and we will hold you accountable for your destructive behaviour. We will continue to relentlessly pursue criminals who prey upon our communities and cause a huge amount of harm and misery in their very own communities with their drug dealing and violent behaviour. From my travels around the Bay of Plenty, the feedback from iwi leaders and community leaders is they've had a guts full of this type of offending and the impact that it's had on their families and friends. I'd like to thank the community members that have reported this type of offending, and I'd encourage them to keep reporting this to our Crime Stoppers lines and also 105 reporting lines. Also like to acknowledge Greg's team, the National Organised Crime Squad detectives, for their tireless work and dedication in this investigation, which has gone on for many months now and uncovered a large amount of evidence. Also like to thank our policing teams across the Bay of Plenty who work very hard every day and make arrests to make this place a much safer place for us all. Yesterday we stood up our gang disruption unit across the Bay of Plenty, and as we speak now they are also targeting gang members down in the Eastern Bay of Plenty this afternoon. They and all our staff across the Bay of Plenty will continue to work hard every day to make our communities much safer. I'm extremely proud of the police officers and what they do every day across the Bay of Plenty, and today's result is a really good reflection of their dedication and professionalism. Greg and I are now available for any questions you might have.
This is I'll agree again, so this is a bit of a nuts and bolts question, but when you talk about meth dealing, like, are we talking ounces, kilos, like what kind of quantities we're talking about being moved?
Well, I think, look, this is a lower level operation, but certainly in the ounce level. I mean, they're sourcing it probably out of Auckland and they're moving across the country, but, you know, as we know, the harm that actually drives in those communities is huge. They know it, and interesting, you know, I was talking to someone as soon as I arrived in town, you know, and they said their biggest concern now is they're targeting the kids. You know, we're seeing it up in Murupara at the moment, you know, where kids are taking it to school and trying to give it to other kids. And this really worries me in terms of, you know, the harm that meth causes in those communities. And these people that we've charged today know exactly what they're doing in that respect.
And you kind of touched on this before, but like normally like NOCG would be doing high-level transnational sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the importance of actually bringing in resource and time to focus on the groups causing sort of disproportionate harm at a community level? Yeah,
100% right. So we are really focused, National Organised Crime Group, on the transnational offenders that really prey on our communities. But you know, we have to come in and support districts like Bay of Plenty and jobs like this, because just the incredible harm that's occurring in those communities is just incredible. And okay, we've done, you know, this is the third big job we've done like this, really, if you think about it. We started with Notice, we did Operation Silk, which basically took out the bulk of the Mongols chapter, and now into Aotearoa, right? But the sad thing is, in Whakatane and Taniatua, you know, in Tauranga, they're all doing the same thing, right? But, you know, I think it's essential that we come and support the districts. You know, it's a big deal for those district staff when you sit and talk to them, and they're having to face this day in and day out. You know, it's tough for them and their community, and absolutely, I'm fully committed as the director to be able to do this, to step in and support and you know, take a group like this out of that community, hopefully for some time.
Greg and Tim, how concerned are you with this Barbarians chapter compared to other chapters of the Mongrel?
Yeah, well, I guess like many other chapters of the mongrel mob, they do use violence and intimidatory behaviour, often not reported. And we saw that last year, and we also saw that recently. So within the course of this operation that the investigators were working on, in my view, they prevented 2 other homicides that we were able to get in and deal with the offenders in that case without prejudicing what we're doing in the course of this investigation. But they use violence, they use intimidation as tactics in terms of how they do business, and their business in this case is meth dealing. So that's why they were targeted. And I can add, just to the earlier question, Jared, I was out with the front line earlier this year with an officer, and he made a remark that even since Operation Notice, the meth dealing across towns like Waikato certainly hasn't progressed to the level of where it used to be. So these operations, they take time, and Greg's team do a superb job, but they make a huge difference in our small communities. So we just thank them for it.
And these instances of violence and intimidation, you said, why are they not reported?
Well, I think, it's obvious, isn't it? Because really, we get down to why we're doing the stuff around the gangs and around the patches stuff, right? Because it really, a lot of these gangs in those communities, it's about fear and intimidation, right? And that, it's the message from Carrell. You talk to the mayor who says they own the town. And they own the town through addiction, right? And they know it. So addiction and then debt, indebtedness, and then they control it, right? And so in those small towns, we've often got a small amount of police officers too. They think they rule the roost, and that's the issue you have, right? And then, the violence seems to be just part of that entire culture, right? It's quite incredible. And today we recovered rifles, a loaded firearm, 3D printed guns there, as part of the culture too. And this particular gang, from what we can see, is one of the more violent ones in the Eastern Bay of Plenty. So, again, we think it's significant that, we think they're going to be out of the community for a while.
So Greg, and so just coming back around to these incidents of violence and these planned drive-by shootings, were they targeting, like, which rival gangs were they targeting down there at that time? Was that like Black Power, Mangaka, or can't give us that? No. No, well, look, we've said what we can. The matter's now before the court in respect to that. That'll come out. But and have they been charged with attempted murder?
No, so they'll be charged with conspiracy to wound, because we had stopped it well before they got near there. But it was very clear what their intent was. That's what we allege anyway.
Sometimes, I guess, generally speaking, that is inter-gang, blue on red, for example, down there, or we've had recent cases in Whakatane or Taneatua and Ruatoki 2 weekends ago was between the mongrel mob themselves over certain issues, so it can be both.
Yeah. Okay, we might wind it up then.
I've got one.
Yes?
You said all the search warrants were conducted at the same time, so how do you coordinate with each other to make sure that the message doesn't get to one part of the country where someone might be able to talk to their chapter? It's coordinated across the country, right? So normally there'll be a first wave that will roll through the most important ones, and then from there it's just a coordinated response. I think the other point too is that we've executed warrants in Aotearoa on the Aotearoa mongrel mob as well. It hasn't just been the barbarians. So we have considered them as well. But that's the aim of it. So it's coordinated in that sense. I mean, the key thing in these entries too is protection of our people and also the people inside the houses as well. That's a key focus for us. How do you keep, because you are conducting these, how do you keep your people safe? Because through that operation, do you go in together? Or
I don't really want to go into too much in the operational stuff.
Okay.
But it's well practiced.
Yep.
In that sense. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks.